too much negativity, too much negative thought, a lack of understanding of what we have. Jesus was so marveled with the action of the centurion that Jesus rebuked Israel. He said, what manner of faith is this? This kind of faith is not even Israel. Understand this, the centurion was a Roman soldier. He was placed there to preserve the peace of Rome. So he was not Jewish. Jesus says, but the children of the kingdom shall be cast out. In verse 12. Because they don't have the faith that sinners have. Many of us are inside the church, and people that are on the outside understand and trust God more than us, and it's getting results. They're getting their life changed. They're getting results. But we who claim to know God don't have the same kind of faith. If we pay attention to the text, there's a pattern that is emerging, and it's the same pattern that has been marring us. If we go to the opening of the text in 9 that I read, notice what goes on. Jesus turned up there, and there was the crippled man, and they brought him in with the bed, and Jesus healed him. Notice what the people in the church did, the so-called church. At that time, they start to debate whether or not Jesus can do what he did, even though it was evident that he could. They started to point out all kind of flaw. Oh, you are blaspheming. Oh, you are saying things that you ought not to say. Oh, you are doing this. He moved on to Matthew's house. The same crowd follow him. What is he doing with sinners eating? What is he doing with sinners drinking? He moved on again, and the man was possessed by the demon, and he cast out the demon. And then they come again. Oh, he's casting out demon by Beelzebub. So it is with us. We are not focused. And because of that, those who want to work, all we do is criticize. All we do is talk negative. All we do is point out what we think should be done when we are not doing what we should be doing. And as a result of that, it is hampering the progress of the church. Because I hear the disciples saying, be of one mind, for they were in one accord. Everybody want to tell everybody what they should do without paying attention what you should be doing. And as a result of that, we have all kind of problem. We can't make any progress. As I look in the Gospel of Mark years ago, while I was in college, we had to read it for a particular course that we were doing. It wasn't a religious course. And when I read the Gospel of Mark, something dawned on me. When I look in the Gospel, I'm saying, my God, how is it that so much people in Israel was possessed by demons? And it caused me to ask myself the question, is it the case that we have as much people today or even more that are among us that is possessed by demons and we don't know it? Just as all the leaders in Israel never knew it. People have problems and they can't fix it. But when it is fixed, it is criticized. When those who are taking the mantle to do the work is doing it, all is being done is criticism. Because we lack faith and we lack the desperation that it takes to succeed. In all of these situations and circumstances, the people were there in crowd, they are in house, but it's only one or two that is being healed because those one or two was focused and they were determined. You see, the man was there in his bed, and they took him in his bed to Jesus. They never care. They never say, oh, we don't have a wheelbarrow, we don't have a car, we don't have ambulance, we don't have none of these things. Sometime in the church, God don't move and God don't work because all we do is look on what we don't have instead of look on what we have and do what we have to do with what we have, because the people was determined. They said we don't have none of those things, but we are going to carry him in his bed, and we are determined for him to get help. Some of us in the church are suffering, but there is no help because we are paying attention to the wrong things. How could the church be the light of the world? How could the church be the light of the world and we can't help nobody? How does this work? How does this work? The world don't have what we have, and we can't help anybody because we are not focused, and we are paying attention to the crowd. When we should be focusing on God and praying, we are doing all kind of things. And then when we are doing those things now, those who are working, why Pastor Jack always is the only one that is preaching? Why Pastor Jack is the only one that is doing this? Why is that person alone is the only one that is doing that? Work with him. He's doing a work. Work with him. Support him. Sister Laban is there doing it. Work with her and support her. Stop criticizing one another.
Yep. Jesus. Help us, Lord. Oh, yes. Oh, my God, help us, Jesus.
The church has seriously lacked faith. We have seriously lacked faith. And as a result of seriously lacking faith, the church is suffering and struggling because what we have done, we have gotten to the place where we can talk our way out of things, and we can credit card our way out of things, and we can borrow our way out of things, and we can doctor our way out of things. No more faith is being exercised. And when people don't have any other option and they become desperate, they will always get result from God. When many of us was in circumstances when we have one shoes, when we have one bed and 5 of us on the bed, when we only have one room, we were more faithful, we were more believing because we had nothing else and no one else to go to. But now we can turn to our credit card. Now we can get a second job. Now we can do all kind of things. So we become weak. So we become, but my God, we are letting down God and don't realize it because we fail to believe.
Oh, yes. We have to exercise our faith in God.
All the people do is criticize. All they do is criticize. Those who are working, instead of we supporting them as if they are working for themselves, we criticize. No. The time has come where it need to stop. The time has come where we need to be in one accord.
Yes, we have to.
But I hear God saying in the book of 2 Kings, we read this text earlier in last month for one of our reflection, and I titled that reflection that day, the audacity not to fear. And as a result of that, we see in the text the prophet Elisha, a man that is called of God, walking in Israel, and when the nation was backward because of what Ahab and the other kings were doing, when the people of God was not experiencing the power of God, he was adamant, he was determined, he was focused, and he was there so that God could use him and talk to him. Are we desperate enough in this time of famine in the church? Are we desperate enough? Are we focused enough where God can talk to us in spite of the famine, in spite of the turmoil, in spite of things look like it's not moving, I hear Jesus saying, anywhere 2 or 3 are gathered, there I am in the midst to bless. We have more than 2 and 3 in the church. Why is the Lord not blessing? Why is the Lord not doing? Because we lack the faith that it takes for the Lord. We are not desperate enough. We are not seeking enough. We are not pressing enough. We are not pushing enough. We are caught up with ourselves. We are caught up with our own lives. We are caught up with pursuing things that does not profit. I hear God saying to Israel in the book of Jeremiah, my people have committed 2 sins. They have forsaken the fountain of living waters, and they have hewn for themselves broken cistern that can't hold water. Many of us are chasing after the wind. Many of us are pursuing things that will not profit, and when we fall on our face, we are looking to God. But I hear God saying, when the fear and calamity cometh, I will laugh.
I will laugh, man.
Elisha was in Israel. Nobody was there to help. But Elisha was determined, just as how Elijah was. Elijah was so determined to the point where he thought he was the only one serving God. He thought that because the place is so messed up, he don't see anybody going or coming. He thought that he was the only one serving God. But God had to tell him, Elijah, I have 7,000 reserve that have not bowed their feet, but the power of that 7,000 can't come to the fore because we have too much that are distracted. We need more that are focused, and it will activate the power of the 7,000. But nevertheless, I will use you. Nevertheless, I will still talk to you. Nevertheless, I will give you guidance. And so it is, Elijah was able to pass on the mantle to Elisha. And when the king of Syria was in his house, talking to himself, in 2 Kings 7, planning and plotting, 2 Kings 6, planning and plotting to go against Israel, the Lord talked to Elisha in his bed and tell him what the king was saying in his bedroom. And when Elisha tell the king of Israel, say, don't go down there because he will be waiting for you. And the Syrian king couldn't catch the king of Israel. He got frustrated. He called his servants and he said, which one of you are the traitors? When God is in the church, nobody can plot against you. You don't know. When God is in the church, he will always protect you. When God is in the church, the psalmist says, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he's my refuge, he's my strength, he's my fortress, he's my protection, he's my God. In him will I trust, in this will I be confident. Then when my enemies come up, they will stumble and fail. So Elisha knew that. The king sent his servants and said, we got to get this Elisha. We got to kill him because I can't understand how come he's knowing what we are doing. He called his servant. The servant says, none of us who did it, but it's Elisha who talked what you said in your bedchamber. And the king sent his army for Elisha. And when they went down there, Elisha prayed to God and they were blind. And he took them and carried them into Samaria. And his servant was nervous, just as how many of us in the church is nervous when it's time to fight the battle. But Elisha, having faith and trusting God and knowing that God was his refuge and strength, he said to him, don't be nervous, for as Paul says, the things that are seen, they are temporal, but we look not